Well, welcome everybody to this deep listening workshop with Mavis Karn, the star of the show, and I'm assisting her, and so is Azul here. So there's just a couple of housekeeping things before we start. The workshop's scheduled to run for 2.5 hours. We plan to take a sort of comfort break, a 5-minute comfort break, roughly halfway through. The workshop is being recorded, but only the group sessions, the full group sessions, are being recorded, and there will be breakouts which won't be recorded. Those will be quite private, and the group session recording is likely to be made publicly available at some point in the future. So it's just to make you aware of that. It was in the information ahead of time, but it's just so that you know what the position is. You're very welcome to be as relaxed as you like during this, but we would be really grateful if you would, in the breakout sessions, participate in those, because obviously they're allocated, and if you don't participate, somebody might end up with no partner for the breakout. So it's really useful if you're on the call, if you're able to participate in those. And I think that's kind of it. Have I missed anything important that we need to talk about? Cute. Thanks very much, Azul. So Mavis, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to you to take us on to the next stage.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hi.
I just love this. I just recently found out I could watch everybody on the screen. I didn't know that. I am not the techno wizard on this whole thing. So it's lovely to see everybody. Thanks for coming. For those of you who have no idea who I am, sometimes I have no idea who I am, but for those of you who don't know me, I have been around teaching what I call the divine engineering of us for 45 years now. I'm getting the hang of it. I've been practicing it for quite a while. But always included in what I do is to talk about listening first. Because I think if I never did anything else, but got it across to people that deep listening is the most valuable gift you can give yourself or anyone else. And more often than not, surprisingly more often than not, if you're in the world of being of service to people, deep listening takes care of 90% of the problems. It's not magical. It's just part of the amazing science of us. It's a perfect example of less is more. So it's kind of amazing that we're going to take 2 or 2.5 hours to talk about something that's so simple and that we've always known how to do it. But we're going to talk it to death until everybody kind of gets it. So I would like to sell deep listening to you. So this is a commercial for deep listening. I wrote it down one day when I was thinking about all the ways that listening to another human being helps. While we're listening deeply to someone, we're also engaging in the purest form of teaching others how to listen. Does that make sense? Deep listening is productive, efficient, inspirational, inspiring. It heals trauma. It has a ripple effect. It raises the quality of every interaction, and it lessens and prevents conflict. Not bad, huh? For those of you who do teaching or training of any sort, A listening presentation sets the table for whatever comes next. It improves retention, it improves understanding, and it increases interest. So other than that, listening is useless. So I hope by the end of this time, you develop a really deep respect for something that you've always been able to do. You just may not have known it. So I'm not going to make you a deep listener. I'm going to just show you why you already are if you use that app. That app is built into you. Do you have anything to add to that, Christian?
No, I'm just listening at the moment.
You're practicing.
Mhm.
All right. How about you, Azul? Do you have anything to add to that? Azul is frozen.
Mm.
All right, while she thaws out, Azul, can you put on the first slide? If you're thawed out by now? Okay, she isn't. This is the slide. Can you see it? It says, everybody just needs a good listening to. Now, I know you've heard probably the thing that people say a lot when they're kind of irritated with somebody. They'll say that person just needs a good talking to. Maybe, but I think the better solution is that they just need a good listening to. So a long time ago, a dear friend and just a wonderful woman was doing a workshop on the three principles, and I was there, and she did a little kind of mini workshop in the middle of it on talking about the value of listening. And I thought, oh, this will be interesting, but I'm a pretty good listener, so no, I don't know if I'll learn much. Whoa. It was embarrassing to find out I was a terrible listener. Well, maybe not the worst ever, but probably close. And I want to tell you, I think I wrote this down somewhere. My list of top bad listening habits. Giving unsolicited advice. I know none of you do any of this, but this is a list of bad habits I've had. Not asking permission before I give advice. Trying to fix people. I know this sounds just weird, that you would never think of doing any of these things, but I'm confessing. Offering solutions. Planning a response while the talker is still talking. Those are the things I found out about myself in that workshop. And another one was assuming that people meant what I would have meant by a phrase or a word or something. So it was embarrassing to find out that I'd been going for about 40 years thinking I was a good listener and finding out that's not true. But after I got over being embarrassed, I started getting better at listening because I could notice myself when I started listening in a way that isn't in service. So I don't know what happened to Azul. She was going to show these on the screen, but I'll show them. Can you tell me? I'm going to show them. I'm going to hold them up. Can you tell me if they're in a place where people can read them, Christian?
Yeah, I unfortunately without a Zoom here, I can't. Maybe I can screen share actually. Hold
Okay,
on. Yeah.
try that. Okay, ta-da!
I
All right.
need to get.
So do you want to put the next one on?
Yes, and I just need to try and move it.
There, that's fine. So I took a few things from my friend Sandy, who did the workshop that I went to, and I added a bunch of my own and have tweaked it over the years, but I made up the idea that there are four kinds of listening. Now there may be 104 kinds of listening, I don't know, but for this workshop's purpose, I'm saying there's four. I'm going to start with distracted. I'm sure none of you ever get distracted, but for those of you who have heard of people that get distracted, it's pretty common. I know one of my favorite examples of it for me is when I'm in my car and I've got the radio on, and the guy in the radio says he's going to play such and such a tune. And I might think to myself, oh, I love that piece. And 3 or 4 minutes later, hello?
No, carry on. Carry on. Oops.
So a few minutes later, the guy says he has played that tune. I didn't hear any of it. I started thinking about something or other, and I totally blocked out actual sound with noiseless noise in my head. Isn't that amazing? That you can make so much silent noise in your head that you can't hear sound, actual sound. I never knew before that we could do that. That's amazing. It's kind of sometimes helpful when you're maybe you're in a crowd of people and the noise is getting to you, you can block it out. So something that's kind of accidental sometimes can be used on purpose. Another app. So that's distracted. The little kids, toddlers even, little kids, can come up to a parent that's just sitting and watching TV or something and say, Mommy, the parent will say, what? Mommy, what? Mommy, what? And they know the parent isn't listening yet. They'll crawl up in their lap, they'll take a hold of their head and they'll hold it till the parent shows up. They know when the parent isn't listening. So do we. We can tell, can't we? We can be talking to someone and somehow we know if they're distracted or they're thinking about something else or they're not listening. We can feel it. Sometimes we can tell just by looking at their face, but we know. There's a big difference in feeling between someone that's actually listening to you and someone that isn't. So the next one is what I call evaluating. And that one we get taught. I know I got taught that in both undergraduate and graduate school. I got taught to listen to people to diagnose them, to find this little box and put a name on their problem and put them in that little box. I thought that was what I was supposed to do. I'm a little embarrassed to say that I spent any amount of time ever doing that, but that's what I was taught to do, and that's what I did. But there are lots of other ways to be in that evaluating mode. You can be thinking, you'd be listening to someone and thinking to yourself, do I agree or disagree? Do you want to put the next, the evaluating slide up? That's all. I'll keep talking. You don't, if you can find it, fine.
Sorry.
It's no problem, really.
I don't know what's going on here. There we are. Sorry.
And we did that one, this one. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're listening to someone, but well, we think we're listening to someone, but what we're doing is we're thinking, do we agree? Disagree? Is what they're saying true or not true? Or maybe we're judging them. Maybe they're saying a bunch of things that we just think are just ridiculous, and we're thinking, what an idiot. Or maybe we're being critical of them. Of course, I have never been critical of anyone in my life, but some people do that. Or maybe they're saying something and we're thinking about how that could be applied to other things. So we go off on a tangent and start thinking about that. Or maybe we think we already know what they mean and what they're going to say. So in our heads, we're finishing their sentences. Or we're thinking of some advice we're going to give them. So they're still talking, but we're planning on the advice. We're thinking of solutions. I know what they need to do this. Or maybe they've said something about us and we got a little defensive. So they're still talking, but we're preparing a case. We're planning on what we're going to say in defense of ourselves. Or maybe, as I said before, we're diagnosing them. We're thinking, man, that person is depressed, or that person is something or other. They're this or that or the other thing in the whole great big book of diagnosis. Or maybe they say something that reminds me of something else and I start thinking about that. Or maybe we're categorizing. We're putting them in a red state, blue state. They're pro-abortion, they're anti-abortion, they're this or that. So what we think we're doing is listening. That is exactly what we're not doing. We're listening to our own mental activity, our own thoughts about what somebody else is saying, our own beliefs about it, our own opinions about it. But we're not listening to that person. And most of us had no idea we weren't listening. Next one. Paying attention. That's what I look like when I'm really bearing down on something. Now, I don't know about most of you, but that's how I went to school. To take notes and memorize and stuff a bunch of information into my head so that I could take a test and prove that I knew it. I was in the car with my granddaughter once. This is a long time ago, but it was right before one of the times I went to Africa, and I was talking a little bit about my trip, and I knew that I was going to go to Robben Island and see where Nelson Mandela had been incarcerated, and I asked her if she knew who Nelson Mandela was, and she said no. And I kind of winced, I guess, but I said, gee, didn't you do a big project on South Africa last year in school? I remember you had a study group and you did a presentation to the class, and I remember you got a really good grade on it. And she said, oh yeah. And I said, didn't the name Nelson Mandela come up at all? And she said, oh yeah, it sounds kind of familiar. Well, she went to school like I went to school. What she was learning got in a little ways, enough so that she could pass the test, but she didn't keep it. She didn't retain it. because the purpose wasn't to learn about South Africa. The purpose was to get good grades. Right? So this is not a good way to develop relationships. I remember one guy, I was showing this to a guy, and he said, "Oh, you mean paying attention? That's like date listening." I said, "Pardon me?" And he said, "Well, when you're dating somebody and they say something and you try and remember it so you can put it in the sentence later so they'll think you're a good listener." Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, it's not exactly what I meant, but that's useful. Okay. Most paying attention is urgent, it's effortful, and it's based on a desired outcome. However, every once in a while, it's useful. I live in Minnesota in the United States, and I live about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes from one of the world's largest shopping centers. It's called the Mall of America. It's enormous. And the only reason I ever go out there is somebody comes to town and wants to go there. I otherwise wouldn't be caught dead in the place. But when I go, I make sure to take along a pen and paper so that I can write down exactly where I parked. Because that parking lot is so huge, if I didn't write it down, I'd probably never find my car. Very helpful then. It might be helpful if somebody's giving you directions. But as a way to build relationships, it doesn't have much going for it. But it's an app you can use occasionally. Next slide. Ta-da. This is the one where we're trying to get to. High impact, low effort listening. It's when thoughts just kind of come and go, they float. That your mind is at ease, it's relaxed. You're not bearing down on anything. It's in my world, it's when you have made a decision that you're going to make what someone else is trying to get across to you more important than anything you're thinking about. It's a decision. It's a stance. It's an attitude. It's like listening to music. It's like most of us, when we're listening to music, we're not really thinking about much else. We're just letting it in. We're experiencing the music. We're not trying to figure out who wrote it and what key are they playing, what are the instruments. We're just letting it in. We're experiencing it. It's sometimes why it's called the universal language. The people all over the world can sit and listen to music and experience it together, no matter what language they speak. So, we're going to practice. You ready for that? Say yes, because we're going to do it anyway. All right. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to break you up into rooms, two of you in each room. And I'm going to have you talk about, I think I'll have you talk about your favorite book. You're going to take turns talking about your favorite book. You're going to take, I don't know, 2-3 minutes to talk about your favorite book. And while you're being the listener, you're not going to say anything. which is probably going to be the hardest part of this whole thing. You're not going to say anything, but you're going to notice how you're listening. That's all. Just notice it. And after 3 or 4 minutes, you switch, and the reader the talker becomes the listener, and so forth. Is that clear?
Yeah, Mavis, can I suggest that we go for 3 minutes each, just to be clear, so that we're all kind of finishing at the same time? Is that okay? 3 minutes
yes.
each way. So 3 minutes each way, and
Christian, sorry, I can send them a message after 3 minutes so they
Perfect.
can do the exercise. I'm not thinking about the time. I just need to know if everybody's going to join the breakout rooms. If somebody's not joining, I need to know. So, okay. Christian, can you join one of the rooms, because there are 19, needing
Yes.
them to. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
I'll do my magic then. Wait. Oh. 1 second. Oh no, no need. We are okay, perfect. So 3 minutes each. I will send you a message. So when you will see a pop-up message, and then you switch roles. Okay?
Great, thank you. Perfect.
My pleasure. See you soon.
And at the end of that, we'll be back here.
Yes. Christian, you don't need to join finally.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Oh. Welcome back, everybody.
Great. So, is everybody on that wants to be on? Because I need us to do this together, because this is I'm pretty fond of collaborative teaching. It's your stories, whether you realize it or not, your stories of what you're learning help each other. It's people will ask a question and somebody else will think, oh, I'm glad somebody else asked that. I wanted to, but I was afraid to. And the stories of what you're experiencing will help other people. And if we're not on the planet to help one another, I kind of don't get the whole plan. So that's why I like us to help each other. So this is my question. And let's see. Azul, do you want to pick people so we're not waiting for people to get unshy?
Okay, I'm going to be the bad one.
Okay.
Okay, what about Shona? Would you like to share?
She doesn't know what I wanted to share yet. What I want to know is, what did you notice about your listening?
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting. Thank you, Vibeke. It was lovely. When Vibeke told me the name of her book, I immediately felt, oh, I think I know this book. I wonder if it's the same book that I read. It was a childhood book, and that was immediately what came up for me as soon as she said the name. And so I noticed that, and then I let that go and was listening. And yeah, I could feel myself go off track and have to come back and listen. I was listening to her accent. I was wondering, oh, where is the accent from, and things like that. Yeah, I noticed quite a lot come up, and I thought I was a good listener.
But in this case, you noticed, and
Yeah.
that's what we're after, the noticing. Good job. You noticed a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Shanice, would you like to go next? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Janice?
My name is Janice. I shared my time with Fatima, and I was interested when she told me the title of her book. I don't remember the whole title, but it was something to the effect of How to Solve Money Problems. And it was an interesting topic, and she spoke very well about the topic, I noticed. And the one distraction I had was I thought I was going to be tested on it. So I I was trying to remember what she was telling me. And yeah, and I wrote a couple things down. But I wasn't totally absorbed. You know, I was more afraid that I wasn't going to pass the test or something.
That's in all the years I've been doing this, that's one of the most popular things that happens. That people think I'm going to ask them about the book and what, you know, I've never asked anybody about what the book was. But that's what I did actually when I first learned. Anyway, I'm glad you noticed that. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Fatima. She raised her hand, so she's ready to share what she noticed.
Yeah, I was with Janice, and you know, I just noticed for the first, for the half of a presentation, because she did not have a book to share, she decided, she was very creative. She decided that she wanted to share a movie. So I was distracted. I was like, okay. So the first half second of listening to her, I was distracted because I was like, it's not a movie, she does not have a book. It's a movie. Okay, so let me to the movie. And then while she was talking, I was evaluating, and I was paying attention because the sound was not clear, so I could not hear her. So I was really paying attention. And, in the half of her presentation, this is really when I listened. Because I stopped being distracted, I stopped paying attention, and I was just present to her. But that happened at the end, almost at the end of her presentation.
All right. How did that feel?
At the end, I was just present to her. I was just present, and it felt wonderful. But at the beginning, it was, distraction, and, very, very, I was listening to my own thought about her. That was the first part. And the second part, I was just present.
The big difference, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, Fatima. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Kay. Kay in Yard. Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing.
Oh, no, that's okay. So Michael and Lindsay and I were all in the same breakout room. Me personally, I want to interact. I want to ask questions. I want to find out more about the book or the movie or whatever. So to me, that's always a hard one when we do this kind of a challenge or kind of a thing. So that's, I see my mind thinking of everything that I want to ask instead of really paying attention. So that's just me. What about you?
Yeah, it's kind of the same for me. I just get really curious and want to not necessarily need to know more about like the topic of the book, but just more curious about that other person's thoughts and mind around why that book or why that topic is important to them, and just get, it's more about getting to know the person than the topic, and through that topic you learn about the person. So I want to ask questions because I'm curious now about, wow, you know what, why did that hit you, you know, in a space, or why did that touch you in some kind of a way? And so, yeah, that's it. I just wanted to ask, well, you know, tell me your favorite chapter, or what was like a scene you really loved. And so, yeah, I get stuck in wanting to ask a lot of questions and be more curious about that person.
So let me say two things about that. Being curious about the other person and wanting to ask questions, absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, we'll have more to say about that later on. Also, there are lots of ways to find out about someone that doesn't involve asking them. And one of those ways is what we're doing right now. We're noticing how we're listening, and we're catching ourselves at our habits, whether they're helpful habits or not, catching ourselves at it in favor of just listening, only listening, not asking questions or anything else, just listening until you can feel this kind of, I call it a golden cord between that person and you. You hear them, you understand them, but it has absolutely nothing to do with anything they said or did. You just get it. So one of the ways of doing that is to ask a bunch of questions. And one of the ways to do that is not ask a bunch of questions. So right now, we're trying the say nothing thing. And then we'll talk later about when to ask questions, when not to. Thank you for that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Let's go with Maria.
Okay. Hello again. Okay. It was really interesting what happened, because at the beginning, when Lloyd told me about the book he wanted to talk about, I started trying to keep the information. I also secretly, I have to admit that, wrote the title of the book because I said, well, I need to remember that. And then I realized, although how interesting it was, the way he was describing it. So I said, what the heck, maybe you won't remember anything, forget about what you wrote. So, and then because I was really interested in the way he was talking about it. So the first part was trying to have the information, and then I saw it didn't work. And I was so interested in getting to know this person. So I forgot that the information part, and then I remember less of what he said, but I have him in my, let's say, I felt more close to him. I was there. I managed to be there. So after, and this happened, what happened was when he finished, I was really interested in asking him more questions, not about the book necessarily, but even things about him. And actually I did, but we were cut off. So yes, that was my experience.
Wow, you made a whole bunch of different decisions there in a short period of time.
Yes.
But it's so interesting that you felt something wasn't working and you let it go. Did you know you could do that?
It's a good question. No, I didn't, but I had to try something else.
Isn't that interesting to find out that you can do that?
Yes, very interesting.
That hanging on to a thought and giving it attention or letting it go is a choice.
Yes, that was exactly what it was like. In 2.5 minutes, we created a whole world in myself, but also in interaction with the person I had in front of me.
Oh, you guys are good teachers.
Oh,
Thank you for that. Thank you very much for
thank you so
telling us.
much. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's go. Oh, I don't remember. You said your name.
Christina.
Your raising hand, Christine?
Christina.
Christina. Okay, Christina, can you go there? Thank you.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, it was very interesting because I was with Patrick and he said, first of all, he couldn't speak English very well, and I thought, oh dear, I won't understand. And then it was really good and he couldn't remember a book at first. And I was wanting to jump in and say, take your time and doesn't matter. And this, always wanting to jump in. And I just kept silent. Kept silent. And when he started talking about the book, it was so interesting. And I wanted to ask questions and, I wanted to know more about it. But I just kept quiet and tried to shut my mind off so that I just listened to what he was telling me. And it was a very good lesson because I'm always wanting to burst in and I'm a very bad listener. After all those things you told me, I realized I was a very bad listener. And so I have a lot to learn, and I'm so glad to be starting now.
Oh, this is a perfect time to start. But you also, it sounds like you started seeing that place where you can make a decision about listening. And it was clumsy because you wanted to jump in there, but you decided not to several times, apparently. It's for the rest of your life. You will now know that there's a space between thoughts where you decide that you have more to say about how things go on and up here than you thought. That's an awesome thing to learn.
I want to learn it.
I don't blame you. Me too. Thank you.
Lloyd, do you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I had a delightful time with Maria, and it wasn't until we've been going through our sharings now that I realized that, yes, it wasn't so much about the book. That isn't what Maria was sharing. She was sharing about herself and how she approaches life. And she shared so many different areas that this book has had an impact in her life. When she was younger, professionally, it's had a profound impact in her family. It has, with her clients, it has. And so it almost wasn't about the book at all. It was just this wonderful time to share with Maria.
What did you notice about your listening?
Well, I was very curious, so I listened very intently because the book was something to think of as a young people's book. And so, I was very interested in finding how this fit into Maria's life and what she had made of the book. So she just drew me in right away.
Okay, so you were mostly present.
I think so, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. It's good to see you.
Likewise.
Right. What's
Okay,
next?
now I'm lost because all the windows are shifted. I think Debbie hasn't shared what she noticed. Is that right, Debbie?
Right. Oh, so I was so excited to hear Mavis say we're going to talk about our favorite book and listen to someone. And I thought, I got this. And then Oh, it was, I was paired with Brandon, and he started off with not only his favorite book, but it was the experience of the book, and it brought in childhood and just, you know, his story about the book. And I immediately went off into Debbie land and was connected with, oh yes, I remember that. Oh yeah, me too, kind of thing. And then it was, again, making that decision to come back and listen about what he was sharing. And but boy, did I notice how quickly I went into, you know, the it wasn't comparison, but it was like, yeah, me too, you know, and the excitement of that. And I mean, we talked about the, you know, like the scholastic book visits, you know, to your school, and you could buy your book. And I mean, I went into like, oh, I remember the order sheet. I mean, like in seconds like that. And I'm like, whoa, wait, come back. Because it was really fun the way he was sharing, you know, the treasure of this book and the notes and the, you know, and yeah, every time I was like, yeah, me too. And then it's like, whoa, come back. So yeah.
Who did you talk with?
Brandon.
Brandon, where is Brandon? There's Brandon.
Yeah.
I bet, I'm gonna ask him, but I bet Brandon felt listened to.
I could tell. I mean, and like someone else said, I can't tell you the title. And I thought, I got to remember the title. But immediately when he started talking about his experience with the book and everything, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I remember the character, Ralph, there's a motorcycle.
You could feel what he felt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how I felt. Yeah.
Let me suggest you don't criticize yourself for that.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's really nice.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you. It was
you.
fun.
Who's next? Let's try Brandon.
Ciara? Oh, Brandon, okay. Okay, Brandon, would you like to comment? And then we go to Ciara, okay?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Brandon. I had a lovely conversation with Debbie. I would say in the beginning, I was more focused on listening to her talk. And then it just brought in feelings behind. As the conversation went, I was noticing all my feelings, you know, of the joys of sharing, you know, these books that we've loved since we were children. And as those feelings started boiling up more, then I wanted to jump in and be like, oh yeah, oh, I love that, you know. And she threw something in my head, like, and I'm thinking about rocks having feelings because it was part of the book that she shared. And the book that she shared was about listening. And so I'm thinking about the feelings rocks have right now, honestly.
Wow.
But it was a lovely conversation. Very good conversation.
I have nothing to teach either one of you. That sounded wonderful. If there's anything that you might want to consider, it's that all conversations could feel that kind of connection. All of them, but you sounded like you had a magic time.
Yes, I did.
Bravo. Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay, let's go with Ciara.
All right. Hi, everyone. I was paired up with Tracy, and it was interesting because I felt like initially when she first started talking about her book, I was fully present, fully with her, and just could kind of see just like waves of sort of like thoughts coming through, but not really grabbing onto them. And then there was something she told me about the book that totally related to my world. And I thought, oh, wow, that reminds me of my son. And I didn't say anything, but then all of a sudden I'm like, emotionally attached to Thomas Edison and how he was homeschooled. And I'm thinking about my son and how I want to homeschool him. And, and I just kind of felt myself drifting a bit. But what was really interesting that I got as we were all talking was that there's something that I learned along my journey that is like the polite way of listening is to nod and agree and okay, like, yeah, like comment, like someone's sharing, oh yeah, I understand, or whatever, like that's the polite way of listening. And so it felt really awkward to not say anything and be really quiet. Like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I should be saying something, I should be agreeing with her, I should give her, you know, a notion that I'm here and I'm listening. So it was like all this stuff going on.
So you noticed a lot,
Yeah, I did.
but you went through the whole list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you, let me ask you too, did you notice that space where you can decide?
Initially, yeah, initially I was definitely in that space because I could see the thoughts moving through and I didn't pay attention, or I didn't really give them any energy. But then it was something about like I got emotionally hooked into the story and the book, and then all of a sudden it was about my life and and what that meant for. So yeah, I did see the space. I just, once I got hooked in, I was kind of swept away.
Yeah. It sounds mostly really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Okay, let's go with Tracy. Tracy, would you like to jump in?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Yes, as Sierra said, I was partnered with her, and it was a pleasure. Thank you, Sierra. I found, actually, like many of you have already stated, that my initial reaction when I have a conversation is, there's a lot of feelings going on there, right? Trying to be present, but I think the most difficult thing for me was the time bound component of it, right? Where I apologize, Sarah. I didn't realize there was an extra 20 something seconds left that I could have just been present and talked to you. But when you saw the little thing pop up, it was like I just felt like I had to get so much either listening in or storytelling in within that time frame, right? And so trying to shift that mode was difficult for me. And then, like many of you said, I got so engaged in her story because I do love to hear about people's experiences and their thoughts, that the ability to interject and connect, both vocally and or just in our nonverbal tactics, was challenging. So trying to kind of just be present in the moment and quiet, and all those thoughts just kind of fleet in and out of your head while you're trying to, like, not take notes. We're raised from the time we're children that you're being taught to take the test, not to retain the information,
Yeah.
as you said, Mavis. And that was pretty profound when you said that, because I'm like, I'm a nurse by trade, so you know what do we learn? We got to take that NCLEX. So you're learning how to take that test at the end of the day, but do you retain all that information? No, you don't. It's through experiences and practice and working through those processes that it becomes like muscle memory. And that's what I'm kind of figuring out. Like, this is going to take practice, but learning from all of you has been pretty impactful. Hearing, everybody's different experiences. So
Yeah. We have sometimes I think we have no idea how just showing up with someone, how impactful that is, how helpful it is. To you're all here to, I'm assuming, learn something that will make your life a little easier. And in the process of doing that, you're helping 18 other people. That's not bad for a day's work, is it? That's awesome. And we can do that all the time, just by being ourselves. All right, thank you.
Let's go with Patrick. Are you willing to jump in?
Of course. So I was with Christina, and I don't have so much to report, because the way it felt for me was to just allow her to tell her story, allow her to tell whatever she wants to say about that book. So I noticed, the only thing I noticed was, I think Mavis said something like that, when you feel them, when you hear them. And I got that after maybe 90 seconds or 2 minutes, I don't know for how long, because Christina really lit up when she shared her affection about that book. So I wasn't in particular interested in the details. I was interested in her, and I noticed how, and that really was contagious. So I was starting to smile a lot, not a polite smile. There was a smile of connection from me. Yeah. I don't know if she noticed that, but I think this was kind of easy to just be with her when she shared that story. So this exercise wasn't that hard for me.
Sounds like you've had some experience with it.
Yeah, I had, but I was with a friend just before entering this meeting, and I wouldn't share the level of listening with that friend. I will probably say something else about that. But here, for me, it was just, I knew that I wanted to get to know her. And, you said something, I took a note. I don't have to ask any question. She will eventually tell me. And I really connected to that. So I never had any question poking me on the shoulder. You need to ask her, because of course I'm a bit curious, but I was just, the thing that popped into my head was like, I was just waiting, allowing her to speak. And I didn't know what to wait for. And when I connected to the feeling that she brought into that story, I was just relaxed and, oh, that's lovely and nice to meet you, for just 3 minutes.
Well, Patrick, it sounded like what you did is just you decided to make what she wanted to tell you more important than anything you had to say about it.
Yeah, sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
I got it, so I passed the test.
There wasn't any test.
I'm just kidding.
It can feel like you're not doing anything because there isn't any effort to it. This kind of listening is much more about what you're not doing than what you are doing. What you are doing is what you did. You just decided, I'm going to listen to this person until I can experience them.
Yeah.
Can't be that simple.
No, like I told you, half an hour ago, it wasn't that simple. Or sorry, the meeting I had with my friend.
But it is that simple.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's portable. You can take it anywhere.
Yeah. That's a good lesson to be reminded about.
Yeah. I have to remind myself all the time. I'm not, you know, I had to learn what I already knew. I know that sounds odd, but
No,
it's
it doesn't.
common sense. It's common sense that if you really want to understand someone, get out of your head and make room for them.
Yeah, and I was the thing I really my takeaway from this is I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't eager for anything. I just allowed that, and all of a sudden, I got it. And I know that one of my main this will sound cheesy and corny, but I know that my main purpose here, what makes meaning for me, is to connect with other people, connect with my children, connect with friends, connect with business partners or whatever. Like Sid just said, it's a contact sport. And so that connection really came very quickly without me doing anything at all. The connection, I felt her. Yeah.
The reason that it comes so quickly is the connection is already there. We're all connected. All of life is connected. There aren't any gaps in the connection. None. Whether we feel it or not is up to us. We get out of all of that noise in our heads and make a space, and ta-da, there's the connection. It didn't go anywhere. It's our attention that goes elsewhere. The connection is always there. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you too.
You're welcome.
Fatima, do you have a question about what he just shared, or is it okay if
Yes.
we listen to the rest?
No, I want to ask a question to Mavis. Mavis, when you were supporting Debbie and Brandon, you said something that really resonated with me. You said you can feel what the other person feel, and when you are in deep listening. And my question to you is, when you are coaching someone in your professional life, and you deep listening and you allow yourself to feel what the person and is sharing, and it could be very, very deep trauma, very negative. So if you allow yourself to feel what the person is sharing, how would you be able to help them?
It's a great question. And I'm just going to tell you another app that us humans have that we may not have known we have. The way that you can feel it is that you just let it in just enough so that you know what they feel like, but not enough so that you're experiencing it completely. I have my daughter used to be a massage therapist, and she was kind of more than that, because she, when she was first learning it, she would come home and she'd be experiencing, she'd have all the aches and pains of her clients. And she went to her instructor and she said, I don't think I can do that. I get in bad shape every time I work on somebody. I get what they have. And he said, well, Wendy, you just take the information in up to your wrists. And she told me that, and I said, what? But I got it. You just take it in up to your wrists. So you have the information, but you're not suffering from what they're suffering, but you know what they're suffering. And we can all do that. We just didn't know we could.
Because I'm like your daughter. I mean, if I allow myself, I will take all the pain and be totally
so would I.
unavailable to help anyone, because I would just be totally stuck in the person's pain.
That's right. It's kind of like, you know, when you say you have a child or somebody that lives with you and they have the flu, you take care of them, you give them some chicken soup or, you know, whatever, but you don't drink from their glass. That won't help them. It won't help them if you catch the flu too. It's the same with psychological flu. You understand it, but you don't take it in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I add something to that? Because I remember asking Mavis. Oh, sorry, Christine. Would you like to go next?
Yes, I would like to just say something about that. That is it like when you're listening to someone who has a very terrible story, it's like you are the safe place for them, so you can listen to them, as you say, up to the wrist.
Yeah.
And it's that if you know that they have all the answers in them, and your help is to help them find that answer in them. So just by listening and holding that space, so they can open and find that answer in them, maybe something like that.
That's right. It's that simple. That there's no greater gift than to just bear witness to someone's ordeal and listen, but you're not helping them by commiserating. That word just means being miserable together. That's not helpful. But to bear witness and just listen it's healing for all concerned.
And one more thing, when they feel that there's no judgment, it allows them to be open to find that in themselves, the way out.
That's right. That's right. It's that simple. Where are we in the...
Okay, let's go to Asanka.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Sankar. That was a really cool question Fatima asked, and this perspective I have on it just coming up to share, so I'll do that first if that's okay. And that being when I'm with someone, I used to experience that taking on experience a lot, and so after the session I'll be like, whoa, that was heavy. About a year ago, I was working with this teacher. He teaches this method called the Wonder Method. And what he was conveying is just being completely open. So, and he was conveying that when I'm listening to someone, because they're in my awareness, I feel them, and it's just happening. It's just part of, you know, how it works, because we are all connected. And in some of the exercises we were doing, he was helping us realize that if I'm resisting what I'm feeling, the other person feel that resistance, and that's not helping them, you know, to go through that experience and see deeper and so on and so forth. Whereas in this class, he was teaching us to be open to whatever the experience that was going on. And what I realized was, as I was just completely open to whatever feeling that was coming up, it just flowed through me. So it was just all happening. And I guess this is more relating to Sid's words about if we weren't afraid of our experience. And what was really cool was, as I was opening up to what was coming through, it automatically opened up the client to be open. So, and the more I experience what they're experiencing, like then it was automatically occurring to me what to say that, you know, turned out to be helpful. So it was almost like it's like jumping onto that stream of life force and just let it carry it all through. So that's been cool. And look, sometimes I forget to do it, but yeah, when that happens, it's really beautiful. And in terms of the sharing the book story, I was paired up with Barbara, and the
Lucky
first,
you.
yeah, it was a joyful experience.
Yeah.
The first few moments, yeah, I could feel, a couple of thoughts were trickling away, and this time I noticed the space of noticing those thoughts, but I didn't do anything, but I quickly fell into, just being in that connection. And what I've noticed afterwards was that I was just in the story. I was in the movie that she was sharing. And that was really cool. Like there was just nothing to do. But what was interesting was after that, like, when we came back to the main room and you talked about sharing, I'm like, oh, I wasn't listening to retain. What was the name of the book? Like, I'm like, but what was fascinating, Mavis, was the name of the book just came up. And what occurred to me was, you've said this before, just listen, and if the information is important, it'll come.
That's right.
And I've also heard from a different teacher where he was saying, your ears are listening, you don't need to do anything. So I think this is the first time I've noticed that, oh yeah, like if it is relevant, important in the moment, it'll come. It's like my Wi-Fi is working, so that was really cool to like notice real time. And the other thing was, I was sharing with Barbara, I was really in the feeling of what he was saying. And I think I've realized deeper that you remember the feeling, you don't remember, like, how they say, you remember how you felt, but not what people did. So it's like, and then I've also heard the perspective that all the information's in the feeling. But I saw that real time where, oh yeah, as I'm remembering the feeling connects me to all the information. So that was super cool. It's like, yeah, don't worry about the information. Like it's all taken care of. And the more I'm falling into experience the feeling, that'll just connect all the dots as it's needed. So I'm keen to test this in real life where, when I'm out in the world, depending on who I'm interacting with, whether it's a salesman or a door-to-door salesman or whatever, I usually go into, oh, here's this kind of person, watch out for this. So it'd be interesting to test this in scenarios, that are not too threatening, to let it happen. And what if this deeper intelligence gives me what I need to see and how that might pay out? So that'll be, I'm curious to test that.
It's all about listening more and thinking less. We can understand things that we may never be able to explain to ourselves and anybody else, but we can understand them. If you have to choose between being able to explain something versus understanding it, choose understanding every time.
Yeah.
That's quiet. It's deep. And all it really is you're getting acquainted with your own divine engineering. You're getting acquainted with what's already there. You're not trying to get something to put into yourself to make yourself better or to improve yourself. You're letting go of everything that wasn't you in the first place. Because you already have everything you need. The universe took care of that a long time ago. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing to remodel. There's nothing you could do to make yourself a better you. That's already taken care of. And listening, which we're going to cover pretty soon about listening to yourself, introduces yourself to who you actually are. And there's no amount of thinking that could explain that to you.
Yeah.
Who's
Mavis,
next?
so, Mavis, I was going to say, I wonder if this would be a good time to have a very short break. We're an hour and a half in. I know there are one or two people still who haven't had an opportunity to share, but I just wonder if we should have our 5 minutes now and take them after the break.
I see several nods. Go for it.
Okay. So it's more or less 1/2 hour, and it'd be great if we could be back just before 25 to.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't shared, because we're going to call on you soon.
Great.
Lovely. So I'm just going to stop. I'm going to pause the recording now.
There is, I don't know if I've told you this before, but McNeill tells a story about a young Zen priest who was talking to his teacher, and he said, "How do I give what we know to others?" And the teacher said, "That's not what I do." He said, "There is something awake in me that may not yet be awake in others, so that when they are with me, that something awakens in them." That's all that is. And I don't have something you don't have. I'm made of the same, like Carl Sagan, like one of my favorite human beings, is no longer on the planet, but he used to love to explain the universe to everybody. And he said, everything is made of the same stuff. Ergo, we are made of stardust. And that's actually literally true. We're made of the same thing stars are made of. But that something that is awake in me is just, I got to learn that I'm made of stardust. I got to learn about the divine engineering of us. So I'm awake to that, except when I'm asleep to it. But I'm awake to it as much as I can remember to be, so that when I do whatever, or I say whatever I say, the truth as I know it, and you can feel that. That's you're feeling. It's not me. It's really important that you know that. That what you're feeling was you awake. See, the reason that has to be true is that if I die, you can't feel that anymore. I don't think so. Okay, so who do we need to hear from?
Declan. Can you jump in? Yes? Oh, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself, please.
Hi. Yeah, I was talking with Eleanor, and unfortunately for the first 2.5 minutes, she was muted. She had parked her car and then she got out of the car, and by the time she got in and on her computer and everything, and then she unmuted herself. So I decided, I asked her, did she want to go first or second? And she had a book, so she started talking. And I knew she was a little bit flustered and a little bit caught up. So I just listened. And the first thing she said, the book was called The End of Us. And I said, oh, that's spiritual. And then I just stopped myself and I said, I don't know. what it is. And then she told me how the story and how she loves how different chapters are narrated by different people, and that's the kind of book that you like. So I didn't interrupt her or didn't say anything. And then she told me about the sequel, which was kind of before it, was the second book she was going to read, and the name of that was The End of Us. And I thought she said The End of Us the first time, but I let it go because I said, she's still talking. So when the message came up that we're finishing, I just said, just tell me the name of this first book. And she said, The End of Us. And I said, that's the end of Us was the second book as well. She says, no, it's the start of us. That's why it made sense to the sequel. So we ended up having a lovely chat. And I'm a listener by profession nearly. I run a listening with love group. So the bit that I've seen, which is better than deep listening, is listening with love, is listening just pure heart, pure presence, and nothing has to come out of it except that the person feels that they can talk, and you open the space for them to say something. And sometimes it's something that I've never heard themselves saying because the space wasn't there. So yeah, it's very, very
That's
powerful.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Sweet. You should have heard the three of us before you all came on trying to figure out all the electronics. It was hilarious. Just hilarious because I don't understand any of it. And I was listening to Azul and Christian, and they might just as well have been talking some foreign language. I had no idea what was going on.
A lot of the time when I listen to people, I don't get any of the words. It doesn't matter as long as they keep talking and keep talking.
Yeah.
And if it's something important that I need to get, I'll get it. And I very rarely say anything or ask any questions. It's at the end I might say.
Isn't that fun?
And let them talk more.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Declan. Now it's time for Lindsay. Lindsay, would you like to jump in?
Sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay, and I'm here in the same space with Michael and Kay, who I was actually paired with. So it's fun. I actually got to just jump in the office and go chat with them for a little bit. But I think for me, sorry, I'm a little distracted because I can hear echoing in the background right now. Can you guys just put yourself on mute for a second? I was like totally distracted. But so when we were chatting, I think something I really appreciate, Mavis, that you were saying is that space within and like really noticing that. And I think that's something for me, I've been having a lot of deep insight around lately, and definitely showed up in my conversation with Michael and Kay. And you know, just am currently in a period where my mind has been pretty busy, and you know, I've been really, I love the fact that I know my mind is busy and that my state of mind has not been the best that it could be. And so I love just in that conversation, I noticed I had to interrupt myself a few times to kind of just come back and slow down and be still. And I think there was a video, maybe that you did, Mavis, that we have at the Inside Alliance, where you're talking about, you know, sitting in the cheap seats at the movie theater, just eating popcorn, watching yourself kind of make a mess of things. And that's always something that's really resonated with me. And I'm like, Lindsay, you're up in the balcony again. Like, time to interrupt, like time to slow down. And so definitely that's something I've been that really resonated with me. And just, I think when I do take the time to slow down and be present, you know, that conversation was so much more fruitful. And, you know, I learned so much from Michael and Kay. They just had really cool things to share about the books that they were passionate about. And so, yeah, that's what I kind of was observing and taking away from that.
That's great. Isn't that great that you can decide?
So great.
Yeah. I didn't know that for 40 years. You're way ahead of me.
Still learning.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, let's go to, I'm not seeing Barbara. Oh yes, there you are, Barbara. Would you like to jump in?
Sure. Hi.
Hi, Barbara.
Oh, gosh. I was paired with Asanka, and it was, you know, one thing, one of the good things for me is that I am getting better and better at being okay with being human. And I was introduced to the principles after having been a psychotherapist for 40 years. So at the age of 60. So, you know, old habits die hard. And I thought I was a great listener. Like you, Mavis, I thought I was good, but I was trained to be an active listener, you know, to shake your head and to agree and yep. And so there are times I think when I'm listening to people that I still feel like these people are going to think I'm not listening because I'm not doing anything to show them that I'm listening. You know? So that's really hard. That's been a hard transition for me. And I think it's been a hard transition for the people that I've worked with pre-principles and then who come back and they look at me like, what's going on?
Where'd you go?
Yeah, where did you go? So in this session, number one, I noticed that I didn't really want to talk about the book. I really wanted to get to know him. I really wanted to hear that. So then I would be like, okay, back to listening. So, I mean, it's this sort of ping pong game that, or, you know, this sort of drawing it back into what I say, coming back to our regularly scheduled programming. You know, like, could you just be here now and do what you're doing and just stay focused? And I'm okay with that. I mean, you know, it's 40 years is a lot to undo, and it is a choice, and I do see it happening, and I am able to bring it back and be okay with the fact that it's not perfect, and it probably never will be perfect, and that's okay too.
Well, I don't even
So
know
what I heard, you know, what I wanted to do was, well, tell me why you like that book. Like, what was it? You know, it's just, I get intrigued with people more than anything. And I just want to go there. And it's like, no, back. So.
It's not that we, you know, this is in some ways an unrealistic practice here that you don't say anything. But you get more discerning about when you ask your questions. You get more discerning about it. You check in with yourself. Will this question deepen the conversation, or will it take it off course? And you can tell that like that.
Interesting.
You don't maybe know you can tell that yet, but you can. You didn't even know you could ask that question. But if you can feel, will this question take things away from deepening, or will it deepen it? So you may ask less questions, but they'll be more discerning, and they'll be more in service of deepening the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always good to see you.
And you. Sorry, I just got attacked here.
Okay.
He wants to share too, the dog.
No, the dog wants to eat. Sorry.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay, let's go to Viveka now. If you're there,
hello.
yeah.
I was noticing first catch myself, oh, which book should I talk about? And then I told myself that doesn't matter, Viveka. It's about listening. So I caught myself and kind of relaxed. It will come to you. It doesn't matter. So I noticed that. And when Shauna started saying something about countries, about England and Switzerland, and I kind of paid attention for two countries, you know, and I okay, and I let that go. And then I, I decided to come back when I noticed. And then I noticed I was seeing, I saw myself being so serious in the pictures. And I thought, oh, I have to smile a little, like you said, active. I have to listen. So I noticed that, but I let go. So at the end, it kind of, I didn't think that much. So I saw it kind of relax a little.
Great.
It was interesting catching it and letting it go. And
That's it.
yeah, yes.
That's it. It's that simple. It's just more and more you'll see the difference in how it feels
Mm-hmm.
to listen from your intellect versus listen deeply for a connection. There's such a difference in the feeling, and it gets more and more and more obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I saw that at the end. It was more, it's just relaxing. I don't have to ask a question or anything. It's just being there. So I also felt that, and it felt good.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we go with Kay and Ellie.
I apologize for running late. I completely just was running late. And of course, that sparked a lot of feelings and anxiety. I joined the call in the car. I didn't have the Zoom invite on my calendar. So I was scrambling, trying to, get to the office, which I was almost here. Despite that, yes, I was very scatterbrained and very, but so to be honest, in full transparency, we didn't do much of, I didn't get to listen much to Declan's book. However, later on when I'm like reevaluating and pulling myself out of all these feelings of, oh, what if I look bad? I haven't met any of you guys, or like, what if I get called out, or, anyways, all the nerves are just in my head. But that's like, what? And then Mavis was talking, I'm like, wow, I need to remember what space I'm in. And all these wonderful people, we have this understanding of we are all human. We are not perfect. And then, so despite me missing the assignment, the exercise, we did at a previous training, we did this exercise. So I can speak a bit to what I have experienced, besides my experience today, which was I'm okay. But my previous experience it was hard. I've realized that listening deeply, aside from just because I want to ask the questions and I want to be engaged and I want to show that I'm engaged, but really me not saying anything, I'm still as connected, because Declan felt he could feel today that I was scatterbrained and I was anxious and this, that. And even though I didn't get to listen, I felt that. I felt connected. I felt listened with love. I felt that. And I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel the feelings I was feeling because I recognized it was the change of thought for me. But that was my experience today. And with the general exercise.
Thank you. We're going to do another one. You'll get a chance.
Oh, yay.
Great. Is someone else?
I think everybody shared already. So if you would like to explain the next one, I can start creating rooms.
Did Janice share?
Who?
Yes, Janice did.
Okay.
Early on.
Okay. Okay. We're going to do another one. This time, I would like you to talk about someone in your life who you think was a good listener, and how did it feel to be listened to by that person? And if you can't, this is before today. So if you can't remember anybody that ever listened to you, talk about what it felt like not to be listened to. So you can choose one or the other. What it felt like to be listened to by someone in your life, or what does it felt like to not ever have anybody that listened to you? Same rules apply. 3 minutes, each.
Okay. See you soon.
Declan, you're muted. I'm going to have to go out for a minute because I've got to stop. Oh no, here we are. And well, I hope you all really enjoyed that. And what we'd really like to know, the two, if you remember, the two questions are whether if either to describe someone who you felt deeply listened to by, if that makes sense, or if you couldn't bring up a memory of that, what was it like not to be listened to? So first of all, just by a show of hands, literally by raising your hand on I think it's available on your Zoom screen, who shared about the first experience? So we're asking for the sharers rather than the listeners, because what we're going to do today is just hear on this particular part, just hear from some of you in each category, as it were. And if you didn't have that experience, if you were sharing about what it was like not to be heard, would you mind just raising your hand or using the hand sign now, just so we've got.
Before we do that, I would like to ask just a few of you what your listening was like this time. You notice anything different? Janice.
Yes, I felt like I was able to listen a lot better this time, and I really felt for Fatima when she told her story. I really felt it in my heart, and she hadn't been listened to, and ever in her life, and I just really felt for her.
Oh, well, now she has had.
Yes, and actually, we exchanged phone numbers, so
Oh,
we're gonna talk to each other and listen.
that's wonderful. Bravo. Thank you for that. Anyone else? What did you notice this time? Debbie.
So I was in the room again with Brandon, and I was just like, oh, good. What's Brandon going to tell me now?
Your new best friend.
So I noticed that, that it was just this, that there's this interest and excitement, with someone that you're familiar with, that, you had a really great experience with. And so that was kind of fun.
Thank you. Isn't it amazing how fast you can form such a solid connection? Yeah, thank you. Fatima.
Yeah, I still have tears in my eyes because when I was sharing with her, I just realized that as a child, I was never listened to, because in my culture, the adults, they don't listen to the kids. The kids don't know anything, so that I have not been listened to. And I shared with Janice that just while I was talking to her, I just had an insight. Oh my God, this is what I'm doing in my own adult life with my own kids.
Oh.
I don't listen to them because I was not listened to. And she immediately offered her phone number and her email. And I just found out that I have to pay a coach to be listened to. And that
you could spend your money in worse ways.
Excuse me?
You could spend your money in worse ways.
So now, through this course, I have Janice. She's willing to listen to me. So that was just, I mean, the connection was there. What you were sharing about deep listening is really feeling what the other person feel. The magic happened the second time around. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And best wishes to you with your children.
Lloyd, did you have your hand raised because you wanted to come in or because you were answering one of the polls?
Yeah, we ran out of time this time, and the sharing was so deep. My eyes were moist listening to Maria, and I'm so grateful to have had that time with her. It's just so incredibly moving. We just became two people existing together in that deep space, and it was so wonderful. Thank you, Maria.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, now Christian, let's talk about let's talk to a couple of people who talked about someone who really listened to them in their lives. And who are those people again?
That is a very good question.
Oh, okay.
Ciara, were you one of those?
Yeah, I am one of them.
Yeah, thank you. Would you like to share?
Oh, sure. So am I sharing what the experience was like being listened to, or am I sharing what it was like to listen?
Both.
Okay. Yeah, I was with Tracy again, and I was sharing with her that years ago I met someone in business, and we became friends, and I'd never been listened to like that before ever, and there was just such a deep listening. He was it was like you could hear a pin drop. It just was so incredible. And really actually helped me change my life because I was going through some difficult times, and he just listened and occasionally would provide a couple words of feedback, but it was just very, the space was pristine and beautiful and very, very healing. And there, I've never experienced that before, and it was just remarkable. I mean, it really helped me. It helped me change my whole world. And then as far as listening today, I felt like it was a lot. It was a whole different experience with Tracy this time. I was really just kind of watching the thoughts go by but very, very present with her. And the one thing I recognize or notice is that as a new coach, I feel like I'm often listening for the problem so that I can insert some kind of a solution. And so that, I have to have something profound to say after the person is talking. And it felt a little awkward at the end because I just said, well, thank you for sharing. I didn't offer anything, and I just listened, but I recognize that, like, I think what it is I'm not fully trusting that the words or the answer or the solution or something amazing will pop out of my mouth from my wisdom. So I have to be thinking about what I'm going to say. So I found that. Yeah, thank you.
You'll get, actually what will happen is you'll get intolerant of that thinking. It won't feel right. And the profoundness comes from the listening. That's profound.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more from somebody who had someone that really listened to them. Brandon.
Yes, I had a wonderful conversation again with Debbie. Immediately, I was excited to continue having a conversation with her when we first hopped into the breakout room. And then she shared her story, and I was just feeling, I was feeling her because she was speaking about her daughter, and I was like, oh, I got a daughter too. I got two of them. So, the relation there was just wonderful. But I shared with her a student of mine that I teach a 10-week program to on the 3 principles in McLaren. And this guy has been in like 2 of my groups so far. So he's gone through the program twice. And, we had a little one-on-one session with him. And this whole time that this guy's been in the group, like I'm always talking about him. I'm like, dude, he never listens. He's just like, he falls asleep, and at the end of the group, he gives like, we ask him, how do you guys feel? Or what did you hear? And he's always got like a 1-word or a 2-word sentence. But as we sat in this one-on-one session, everything this young man said to me, I was just blown back by listening to his words, because he listens to everything that we've said and have taught him in these groups. And I'm like, I'm just blown away listening to this young man talk. And as he's talking, I'm taking in a lesson that I'm learning. Because I went back to, these 3 principles, and I'm like, dude, I've been in my head about this young man this whole time, thinking that he doesn't listen to me. But here I am, he's listening to me, and he's teaching me now. And I'm like, my co-facilitator, she turns to me and she's like, hey, so you have anything you want to add, Brandon? I'm like, honestly, I don't. I'm kind of speechless, but I just want to give you kudos and just let you know that you got it, man. Like, you've been listening, and I have to apologize to you because I've been thinking that you've never listened to a word that we have ever said or anything we've taught you. And you just changed my whole mind, and I'm sorry. And just know that when you get released, bro, you got it. Like, the world is yours, and dude, you got it. Thank you. I had to thank him. So that was my lesson of somebody who I didn't think was listening, but really was listening.
Oh my gosh. I have something to add to that. I bet that guy is amazed that you were so humble and apologized for thinking something about him that wasn't true. I wonder if he's ever had that happen before.
Not sure, but I had to let him know.
Well, not everybody would have done that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that story. That's funny and wonderful.
You're welcome.
So can we hear from someone that talked about never having had anybody listen? Yes. What are you?
Okay. Well, yes, I was. I talked with Lloyd before about how in my family system, again, the children were not listened. This is what you asked, right? Am I in the right? Okay. So especially from my father, who also is a man, and we were 2 daughters and a boy. And the 2 daughters, although our system is supposed to be modern and democratic. For example, if you tell my father that you never listened to me, he will say, me? No, never. I'm very. But the truth is that we never had where we couldn't even ask a question, because for him questions were, most of them were silly. And I carry this till now, that I dare to ask questions in seminars, and I still have this little voice that, of course, I don't listen to it, and I laugh with it. And now that, oh my God, you're going to ask a silly question. But what the shock was that I thought that that was the normal thing.
Yeah.
That's the normal thing. I didn't think it was happening because I'm a woman or because I'm a child. I thought that's the thing. You don't ask, you don't express, you don't fight for something, because the system does not stand it from you. Yeah. And thank God, when I grew up, I realized that, my God, that's not it. There is something else out there. And that's why I'm so grateful I met people that drew me out of that. And I managed to, change this victim. Yes, I used to be more of a victim. Thank God I worked for that. And I learned to, have space and put my father inside. I don't blame. But thank God right now, I am in the other side of communication, of listening, of being listened. But I still have to tell you, in my system, whatever is around me, socially or in all the ways, I'm still the outcast who listens. I'm still the how can I say, are you crazy? You listen to your children? You're not a good mother.
You should be proud of that.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah,
I need that. Are you crazy? You don't fight for more money or for more stuff, and you must not trust people. And thank God, I'm there. Thank God. Sometimes my past tries to draw me back, but thank God,
yeah,
I managed to change the whole thing, and still I'm fighting for that.
Thank you for that story. That's I'm so glad you found out that's not normal. That's just a bad habit.
And thank you all for reminding me that there are not silly questions, there are not silly statements, there are not silly conversations, and everything has its own value.
And besides, what's wrong with silly? I like silly.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, I agree.
Let's have one more person that actually had experiences with not being listened to.
Barbara?
Can I share one quick thing from Maria that was so profound? The way she put it is she experienced that not being listened to as a shrinking of herself and her world. And I thought that was just the perfect description.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So I would have to say that I grew up in a family that no one listened to each other. Everyone talks over each other. And after my intensive, my first major insight, when I really saw how my mind was working in Technicolor, I realized, oh, that's why everyone in my family repeats themselves over and over. That was a really massive insight for me. Everybody, including myself, and I still do it, I'll repeat something over and over and over. And now I can see, most of the time I can see myself doing it. But that was really fascinating. It was almost like, hear me, you know? And every one of my siblings does it. And every one of them complains about the other one doing it, but they don't see themselves doing it. But it's almost like being invisible. Well, it is like being invisible. And I think the longing for us is to be heard and seen deeply. And when that doesn't happen, you know, I think you just are constantly searching. You're searching for that. And when it finally does happen, it's very powerful. I think probably one of the people who listened to me the most carefully of anyone I've ever met was Keith Blevins. And that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
There's that leads me to the last thing we're going to do. I would like to hear from all of you, and Christian, if you could just pick each person. I want a one-word description of what it feels like to really be listened to. Just one word, and Christian will go through everybody so you all have a chance.
Lindsay.
I would say hope.
Hope.
And Michael's right next to me too.
Michael.
To break the rule, it's going to be 2 words: not alone.
Thank you.
Declan.
Love.
Love.
Thank you.
Sacred.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Oh.
Fatima says to be valued.
Divine.
I didn't get that one.
Divine. Thank you.
Connection.
Connection.
Respected.
Respected.
Relief.
Really.
Who said that?
Ellie.
Thanks, Ellie. Okay.
Love.
Love.
Thank you, Barbara.
Worthy. Coming home to my little child, my little self.
Coming home. Okay.
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Another vote for love. Love.
A vote for love.
Sanka says that you matter. Thank you.
For me, I would say empowered.
Oh.
Freed.
What was that one?
Freed. Freedom. Freedom
Freed.
to be me.
Great.
Patrick?
Magic. What was that one?
I'm so sorry.
I haven't said anything.
Okay.
Connection, relief, freedom.
Lovely.
That was 3. You can put them all together and pretend it's a new word.
Okay. Got it. Did everybody
I
get
have
a chance?
lost count. I have Maria, were you going to come in there?
Yes, I have 2 words. One is expanding, and the other one is oneness.
All right. Now, I would like one word descriptions of what it feels like not to be listened to. Same plan.
Okay. Shrink.
Pardon?
Shrink.
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 Annoying.
Okay.
Isolated.
Not good enough.
Oh, we've got a
Okay.
whole stream in the chat. Shall I read them?
Yeah.
Isolated. Frustration. Invisible. Voided.
What was that last
Deleted.
one? Ignored.
Voided. VOIDED.
Okay.
Deleted. Ignored. Defeated. Unimportant. Judged. Alone. Misunderstood. Invisible.
Unloved.
Unloved.
Okay. I'm going to read these. This is how it feels to be listened to. Hopeful, not alone, loved, sacred, valued, connected, respected, relief, like coming home, sunshine, that I matter, empowered, freedom, like magic, expanding, and oneness. This is how it feels not to be listened to. Shrink, annoying, not good enough, isolated, frustrated, invisible, ignored, voided, deleted, defeated, unimportant, judged, misunderstood, invisible, and unloved. So the question then is, bottom line, when you leave an interaction with another human being, how do you want to feel? And how do you want them to feel? Your choice. And you can only make it for yourself. And I want to tell you that there is a direct line from learning to listen to understanding our own divine engineering. So everything that you've heard today includes listening to yourself. And that's like a whole nother topic. But you don't want to leave yourself out of the equation. Just listen to yourself and listen to others. It's like the poet laureate of the United States. I read a quote from her the other day. She said, I used to worry that just writing poetry wasn't going to do anybody any good. But it turns out that it is enough. And sometimes we can think that just listening isn't that big a deal. Believe me, it is enough. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have spent time with all of you. Blessings to you.